Hello everyone, welcoming you to Shourab's classes. So today we are going to discuss the IIFT Economics 2019 paper, and we are going to start with question number 8 over here. So consider the utility function as given by min of x1 x2 plus max of x1 x2, where x1 x2 are positive. The prices of the two commodities are 1 and 4 respectively, and the consumer's income is 120. Then which of the following is correct? Okay, so the options basically consist of alternatives among the optimal choices of the two goods. So let us first of all write down the information that we have. The price of good 1 is 1, price of good 2 is 4, and the income is 120. And your utility function u of x1 x2 is equals to min of x1 x2 plus max of x1 comma x2. Now basically, just to recap of one important thing over here, if you remember this part, this is the perfect complements portion, right? Min of x1 x2 basically represents perfect complement. Now the name is not really important over here. What's important is what was the optimal criteria that we already know. At optimal, we know that equal amount of both of these goods will be consumed, right? And over here, this is the max utility function, and this basically says that if so your max utility function basically means that you're going to buy the good which is cheaper. That is, x1 will be sorry, if p1 is lesser than p2, that means he will buy x1. Otherwise, if p2 is lesser than p1, then he will buy x2. Plain and simple over here. So now look, and since we have a plus over here in between, basically we have a perfect substitute kind of a framework over here. So now let us understand this perfect complement part. You're going to consume both of them in equal amount. So this bundled together, if I'm going to consider, let's suppose that min of x1 x2, if I denote is, let's say, by some a, then what is the price of this bundle? Let's say if I denote it as PA, then it's simply P1 plus P2, right? Which in our case is 5. And here, as per the data that is given, P1 is lesser than P2. That means max of x1 comma x2 will definitely be equals to x1, because p1 is lesser, so it is cheaper, he'll be able to buy more, so max of x1 x2 will be x1. So you can see that we basically have a more simplified utility structure over here. U of x1 x2, or simply u, I shouldn't write x1 x2 over here. U is equals to your a plus x1. So now you can understand we have a perfect substitute kind of a structure between a and x1. So what will happen? Now note that over here on perfect substitute, what takes place? The consumer is going to buy that good which is the cheaper one. So what is the price of a over here? We have calculated that to be 5. And what is the price of good one over here? It is it is 1, not x1, it's 1. That means as P1 is lesser than PA, so A is equals to 0. No units of bundle A will be obtained. What is A? It is basically your uh, sorry, just a moment. Yeah, probably some error. Yeah, so let's continue. So minimum of x1 comma x2 is equals to 0. That means from this part he will not consume anything. So particularly what is of interest is x2 is equals to 0, because x1 there will be some consumption from the other part, and so a is equals to 0. And what is the optimal amount of x1? It is m by p1, right? He is not buying anything of x2, so he will only purchase x1. So given his money income, which is m, what is the maximum amount of x1 that he can purchase? It is m by p1. So your m is 120, p1 is 1. So x1 star is 120. So at optimal, what do we see? The consumer will buy 120 units of x1 and no units of x2. This is your answer. So if we match with the optimal, it is basically your option number A over here. At the optimal, the consumer should consume 120 units of commodity 1 and none units of commodity 2. So that is option number A over here. Okay, thank you. Okay, so now moving on to the ninth question of the IIFT Economics 2019 entrance exam. The question says, consider two firms 1 and 2 producing a homogeneous product with firm 2 exercising leadership in choosing quantity over firm 2. Okay, so now there seems to be a printing error in the question. So it can be either one of them will be firm 1. So okay, without loss of generality, let's say this is firm 1. Anyway, if it is the other way around, then the option will just change. So that's not that's not a very important. The marginal cost of production is C and the market demand for the product is A minus BP, where Q is the quantity demanded at price P, where A, B, and C are positive. So what are we expecting to occur in the equilibrium? So basically there are two firms. So let us say that firm 1 produces an output of Q1, firm 2 produces an output of Q2, such that Q1 plus Q2 is the total market output. Marginal cost of firm 1 is same as marginal cost of firm 2, which is equals to C. And the market demand function is market demand function is Q equals to A minus BP. So in over here it should be small q, not capital, because that's not the notation that has been used. So if you just interchange it, so q is basically q1 plus q2. This entire thing is equals to A minus BP. This is what is there. And over here, if you just look at the second sentence possibly of this question, that considering two firms producing homogeneous product with firm 1 exercising a leadership in choosing quantity over firm 2, that means basically we are talking of a quantity leadership framework. Quantity leadership framework in the oligopoly setup. Correct? And if you remember the name slightly, this is what was known as the Stackelberg's model. Okay. And over here, you can work it out. Obviously, the algebra is pretty straightforward. But since it's 2 marks, if you remember from your theory, what we observed is that the firm who is basically deciding the output for quantity first gets to produce more amount of output as comparison to the other firm. Okay. So basically, this is what the observation from the Stackelberg's model was. So if you just match with the option, it's straightforward, comes down to option number B. That's your answer for this part. You can work it out algebraically, that's fine. That will give you the same answer. The answers that you will get, it will show you that the optimal amount of output for firm 1 will be greater than the optimal amount of output for firm 2. And that will basically confirm the same result. So naturally, like I was mentioning, that then there is a typing error in the question. Had this been firm 2 and the other one would have been firm 1, then obviously the option would have been C. So the option would have just flipped, the calculation would have remained intact. Okay, thank you so much.